Morning, everybody. Very nice to see everybody on this green light morning. Green light is a green tea from Anhui Province. Anhui Province is very famous for green teas. In a minute, we'll go through those green teas with you so you get some of the lineage of what green teas come from Anhui. I want to point out that I apologize for sending a couple pictures so late. I sent those this morning. So for those of you who haven't looked at your emails this morning, not only do you have pictures, the pictures are the great thing out of that, but even greater is you have a map of Anhui Province. So these are tools that will be helpful to you this morning. Let's talk about one of those pictures in particular. One of those pictures shows what looks like a youngish guy. And he's at a blackboard and talking, obviously. This guy is one of the top tea professionals in Anhui Province. And he is 50 years old. He doesn't look 50 at all. And he's been, through the years, extremely helpful with us. And so, again, we're slowly introducing you to friends of Sophie's, people who from early on have been supportive of our efforts to bring the unusual teas that we bring to you. Green light especially falls under unusual tea. Now, it's a green tea. In general, outside of blindsided, have there been any truly off the board green teas? No, not really. We've had really great tasting green teas, but green light has something else going for it, has something else special. Let's talk about biochemistry for a minute. See, I get my one long word in within the first 5 minutes, and I'm already feeling satisfied and ready to go. So green light has more than double the amino acids that most green teas have. So already, this should start us thinking, but wait a minute, there's more. It has more polyphenols than many other green teas. Something going on here. Maybe it's not a green tea. Let me dispel that thought right away. Green light is a green tea, because remembering that green or any color associated with a category of tea simply means it's a style of processing, right? It doesn't mean color of the tea. It means style of processing. So what is the color of the leaves of this tea early in spring? They're white. And so historically, tea from this area has been called white tea because, remember, back in the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 960 or thereabouts, back in that era, did we have other styles of processing tea? And the answer is no. You had tea cakes, basically. You had a little bit of loose leaf, but that was it. And it was all processed within a relative standard that's equivalent or roughly equivalent to green tea today. And by equivalent, let me put it this way, and you'll all understand. It's non-oxidized. So it was non-oxidized back then, still non-oxidized today. That's the characteristic, one of the chief characteristics of green tea. But this tea, there's record of this tea grown and harvested and sent as tribute tea, and it being called white tea, because simply referring to the color of the leaves. So now you're beginning to get an outline of why this is so special. The leaves turn green very close to harvest, but they start out as white. And it really blows you away when you look at the tea fields and all these young buds, they're all white. And you're thinking, oh, they planted a white tea varietal up here. And the answer would be no. This varietal has existed in this area for ages. Let's talk about this area. This area is the Dabie Mountains in Jinzhai County. Now, what else is in Jinzhai County? I know you're about to ask me. Well, there's a place called Luan. And if you look on your maps, near the center, so find the center of Anhui, go a little bit to the left, and you'll see a place spelled Luan. And that place is extremely famous because that's where Premier's Choice comes from. And that's where many of the techniques for green tea in that area originated from. There's more. Keep going left, and you'll see not very far from the Anhui western border, a body of water. I don't think there's a name attached to it. It's a great big reservoir there. And the Dabie Mountains run from that area towards Luan. What is that area like? That area is the last primeval forest in eastern China. And the area itself is beautiful. I think you can tell that from the picture that we have. It's a landscape picture. You have a gentleman in that picture. That is the area, and it goes on for miles and miles. And it's misty, mysterious. Let me tell you something else about this area. A lot of traditional, old-style Chinese herbs grow in this area. Famous herbs, things you call reishi. They call it something else in Chinese. They have other very famous herbs. And this is herbs related to herbal medicine that grow in this area. Why is that? Because this forest has been undisturbed and relatively undisturbed. Let me put it that way. Of course, peasants for years and our farmers for years and years and years have been going into the forest. They recognize these herbs. They use these herbs to treat various maladies. So it's not completely undisturbed, but I mean, it's undeveloped. And you don't have industry making inroads into this forest. You do have the development of the tea industry in this whole area. And so you have a different cultural terroir in terms of how to process the tea. We've talked about this with yellow tea before. They use these whisk brooms and so forth. So they have a slightly different set of tools. But at the end of the day, it's still green tea. They're not allowing the tea to oxidize. Let's remind ourselves of what causes oxidation. You damage or bruise a tea leaf, exposed to oxygen, enzyme gets to work, change in flavor and aroma. Unoxidized. So you apply heat at least 150 degrees, and with green tea, it's usually around 300 to 400 degrees, and you denature or you kill the enzyme which creates oxidation. Essence of green tea. So these tea leaves, green light tea leaves, they go through that process. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to look at those leaves too, because you'll see that they're not bright green, but that they got a little bit of yellowish in them. That's not because of age. That's not an accident. That is the pigmentation in this tea leaf is just different. And so that leads to the biochemical difference between this particular varietal and even other varietals within the same generalized local area. Remember, we spend a lot of time talking about the Anhui Mountains and the cliff teas and the southern Fujian Wulongs. We spend time talking about central Fujian and the white teas. Actually, those are more to the East Coast, Fuding, Zhenghe, Jinyang, and then the red teas. These craft red teas that come both from the Anhui Mountains and central Fujian. And sometimes I think, because maybe I've not said it enough, while Fujian is hugely rich in tea resources, so is Anhui. There are 3 hugely rich provinces in terms of resources, tea resources. Anhui is one of them, Fujian is one of them, and Yunnan is another. You have other provinces that have plenty of tea resources, Sichuan, Hunan, Hubei, Zhejiang, they all have great tea resources. But when you think of the variety in Anhui, both reds, the Chiman family, which there's a huge number of teas, a huge number of greens that are really unique. I already mentioned Premier's Choice. Wong's creation comes from that area. There's and green light also comes from this region. Any number of small crop green teas, small crop. Let's talk about this crop of green light. Are there a bunch of these plants growing all throughout Anhui, and so they're able to produce, 40 or 50,000 tons? No. Simple, no. There's not very much of this varietal that's being grown.
Are they growing amongst the trees, like self-propagating? I'm thinking about all the Yunnan, the wild bushes, and it's an awesome to know about this area has this last remaining primeval forest in China in this area. What does it look like when you were looking for the bush?
So the older bushes are actually growing throughout the forest. And the wild bushes grow throughout the forest. They have domesticated, and so you can see actual fields in the forest. Let's see, adjacent to the forest. Let's not say in the forest. They seem like they're in the forest. This is a strange area. It's a great, beautiful area. And what I mean by that is the tea fields go right up to the edge of the forest, and then sometimes the forest, in a way, encircles. So there's a close relationship with the tea plant and the forest, and certainly the wild ones still exist. Wild bushes still exist within the forest. So this goes through a normal green tea process, oxidation. At the end, you see that there's a little bit of rolling and shaping, but where does that shaping take place? And all of you who've been with us a long time, when you look at the leaves, you'll immediately think, hey, that probably takes place while they're frying. And it actually does. That's where the shaping takes place. So then after that, you got to bake to get the level of moisture down. And then at the very end, you sort and pack. Sounds really simple. And technically, compared to a cliff tea, it is really simple. However, there's always ways you can mess it up. And these farmers are really good at not messing the production of this tea up. So what I was trying to convey was there's not much of this produced. One of the specialities of this shop, and for you as the customers, is you come here and you have a chance to be exposed to teas that so many people have heard about and know the existence of in China. But then when you ask them the key question, oh, have you had that? No, but I know it exists. Here, it's concentrated. And in China, among the tea experts, among the tea scientists, they recognize that this is one of the key places in the US where you can be exposed to all of these incredible, unique teas. Everything we have in here has a uniqueness to it. And sometimes some things go beyond just unique. This is one of those that goes beyond just unique. And these are the things that we search out for and that we've made an investment. These are big investments. And that's why most Chinese have not drunk this. First, not very much of it produced. Oh, but say you have an extra dime in your pocket. Can you go out and get this? Now, an extra dime won't quite do it. If you had an extra $10,000 in your pocket, now that would be helpful to going out and getting that. And that's what these teas are about. These teas have been crafted, they're handcrafted, they're early picked, they have history to them, and more importantly, they taste good. They taste really good. In addition to tasting really good, oh, well, wait a minute. Are they good for me? Oh, turns out they're real good for you. So green light falls right squarely within that category. Now that I've talked to you about all of this, and all of you are feeling, okay, let's not go through the normal palaver, and let's get to the tea sooner than usual, because now you've built it up. Yes, I have built it up. So it is my great pleasure to ask the tea master to come demonstrate how to brew this tea and then to brew along with you. So it is my great pleasure to turn on the green light and bring the tea master.
Hey, 你好 ，Good morning, everybody. We do 绿茶哈，it's the green tea 哈，it's ingrediient tea. So also this is same thing 哈，same section the 3 cups. So right now there is low temperature 170 哈. We focus the temperature of water.
So you see the normal tableau. She uses 3 cups, and that's so that she can dissipate the heat, dissipate the steam more quickly. This is 170-degree steeping. She draws 175-degree water once she starts the dissipation process. This isn't though. This is 200-degree water because she's first heating the cups. Heating the cups and making sure that there's no residue of anything on the cups. Don't want to affect the flavor in any way. Using tea rhythm, being very present while she's doing this. It's funny how 200 degrees really gets you present, because there's so many bad things that happen when you have 200-degree water and you're not present. She's drawing 175-degree water now, which she's going to dissipate the steam, aerate the water, and reduce the heat to 170 or less. Why again do we do this? Particularly with a delicate tea like this, you want to do that so you get the maximum flavor. You want bright flavor. You see, part of being present is knowing that you don't have to rush through this, and more about just trying to establish a rhythm, a steadiness, a rhythmic way of going through this so you achieve your objective. If we're rushing through this and spilling water all over the place, that's not going to achieve your objective. All right, she's picking out bag number 2. She's getting, there's 5 grams in that, by the way. Remember, she's heated the cups. We're gonna wake the leaves up here once she pours the leaves in. You want to distribute the heat on the leaves. And so she's transferring the water to a kettle with a spout so she can control the pour of exactly where it lands on the cup. Because she's trying not to pour directly on the leaves, but on the sides of the cup. Pour directly on the leaves, you'll scald it. You'll flatten the flavor. And this is the 3-minute steeping. All right, so this is a beautiful, very beautiful stain at the top. So I'm going to take a digression now, because I didn't do this at the beginning because I wanted to get us into starting brewing more quickly. So there has been exciting shop news, and yesterday we had to cancel an appointment with our dear friend and customer Cindy. Sorry, Cindy, because we were waiting for tea. All of a sudden, tea tried to show up on Thursday, just as we apparently had stepped out. And nobody left a notice, but in China, they recorded that somehow they'd attempted to make a delivery on Thursday. So we knew, and I went down to the post office on Friday, and no, it's out with the carrier. And so we were here waiting. Now, sometime close to 4:30 or so, it came walking in, and somebody must have talked to the post guy, because he didn't bring our mail along with the box. He just brought the box. Because when I went to the post office, I said, I got to have that box. And so they got that here first, and then an hour later, they got the actual mail here. So this is new samples. So now I have to admit to understudy weakness. Previously, I told you that the tea master had reminded me that this year we have to cut back on the number of new teas. And I have told you many times that we're really observing that, and we're really trying hard to do that. After sampling a few of the teas yesterday, it appears that maybe my previous forecast was wrong, and that instead of, I think I may have said that the maximum number of teas was going to be 15. I really don't know what I was thinking on any day previously that I said we have self-control. Everybody, all of you knew that was a lie. But I tricked myself into believing, yeah, I really do. We really do have self-control. It looks to us like we're probably gonna have about 30 new teas this year. All right, timer has gone off. Tea Master is using tea rhythm, being present, and is getting ready to separate the tea leaves from the tea liquor. Nice and steady, nice and easy. Okay, now, if you hadn't watched that entire time and you had just taken a quick glance at this, you might have thought, oh, maybe they forgot to put the tea leaves in. The appearance of it is light. The appearance has a slight yellow tinge to it. When you really look into it, there's green in there. The tea leaves are not bright green, but there is aroma. So let's go and enter the quality arena and see what sort of tea this is going to be. We already said it's going to be green tea. I didn't say whether it was going to be delicious green tea. Let's find out. Remember, first steps, looking for astringency, mouthfeel, aftertaste, and energetics. 170-degree sip, so we can take a larger sip and cover the tongue. Well, there's mouthfeel. There's no question about that. Wow, there's something else here going on as well. Nice aftertaste. Let's try another one. Let's see if I can get some sense of aroma and taste. Oh yeah, there's taste. There is aroma. Okay, I'm not going to say much more about this. I'm going to let you brew now, and then you come to your own conclusions about this particular tea. So your turn to brew. Making the tea tray decorative. Tea Master making sure that everything's set up properly. And getting ready as you should be to draw your water. Now, when you heat these cups, you can heat them anywhere from 175 to 212. It does not matter. Same time, make sure your timer is set for 3 minutes. She used 200-degree water, so she's making sure everything is clean. Nothing left over. The strainer doesn't have any leaves in it. See, what happens if you leave stray leaves in is that influences the flavor, because second steeping of leaves gives a different flavor than first steeping. So it influences and changes the essence of what a first steeping would be. So that's why we're always very, very careful as we go through that process. Oh, and this is the fun part. Don't let your kids see this because they'll start pouring from a foot above and then there'll be water all over the place. This actually does take some skill. I've tried this before. I always have water all over the place.
I thought you'd been practicing this since you were a kid.
Yeah, my practice was 3 inches above the glass, not a foot of glass. So you've dissipated the steam, you've opened bag number 2 labeled green light. You're getting the leaves out and ready. And you're gonna put them into the glass that you've already heated. Shake the leaves, trying to distribute the heat. And then if you can, you transfer it to a container that's easier to control in terms of where you pour. But if you can't, you just pour on the side of the cup as best you can. And don't worry, this is not about being stressed out about making a cup of tea. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is, if you want techniques that will give you the maximal flavor, these are the techniques you would use to get that flavor. But if you're under time constraints or any other constraint, then it's not going to matter because while there'll be a slightly different taste, there's not going to be a huge obvious taste difference. And you heat the recipient glass. Okay. So we're talking about lack of self-control. And yes, indeed, the teas that are coming in this year are spectacular. And while we've tried to limit, so actually, maybe how I should frame this is a little bit differently. Actually, we've had a success this year. In my usual uncontrolled years, with this type of crop coming in, we would have gotten 50 teas. We're only going to get 30 this year. Yes, I should have framed this a little bit better. So that's where we're headed in terms of what we think we're going to end up doing this year. And we're really pleased with how the crop is coming in. Not in all areas of China. Some areas were affected by drought, and it really did affect the final outcome of the tea. And some areas were actually affected a little bit by floods as well. But overall, what we're seeing is really quite good. And we're really, really happy about the stuff that we're seeing. So we're going to go through one last round of testing. And it'd probably take us a full week to finish these tests because we had so many teas come to us. We never know what the exact number is going to be because we put out the notice to the farmers. We're interested. Farmers who have stuff that they think is really unique and good, they send it to our aggregator packages it and then sends it to us. And so that's kind of the routine that we go through. And so until that tea actually arrives, we never quite know how many samples are going to be that we're going to be tasting. So always fun. This part of the tea business is a very fun part of the tea business. So let's get back to green light here for a moment. Because the other thing about this environment, which I think I forgot to mention, is the elevation. So a green light is grown between 1,500 feet above sea level as high as about 4,500 feet above sea level. And the soil component is not, it's yellow and black dirt. And so it's a little bit different than some of the other places we get tea from. All right, timer's gone off. Tea master, or in an orderly fashion, is separating tea leaves from the tea liquor. And again, yours should end up looking this color. So you see it's really very light, but there is a tinge, a slight tinge of yellow and a slight tinge of green. So it's your turn to go through the quality assessment of this and let me know what you think this is tasting like to you. And while you're thinking about that, I'll tell you that among the new teas we're going to get this year, we're going to have a significant number of new cliff teas. We're going to have a few green teas. We're going to have 1 or 2 white teas. And then we're going to have some fermented teas, both raw black and fully fermented teas. So that's what the lineup looks like this year. I think this year we will probably not add any more yellows. So it's going to be everything except yellow. We probably, although there is one possibility, but we probably will not add any Southern Fujian oolong teas. Everything that we add from the oolong perspective will be a cliff tea, is what we are currently making. So this is part of what has made this week very, very exciting. We had people in yesterday. That was a really interesting day because people who lived around here for a relatively long time, but they've never been in the tea shop because they didn't realize what this really was. And then as soon as they came in, they did start to understand, oh my God, you're doing something different here. So there's going to be more different things that we're doing. And so I want to give everybody a heads up. But before I do, let me take this comment.
The scent of the warm leaves is umami and malt. The scent of the steeped leaves, umami plus light vegetal. However, the scent of the tea liquor is a round, light, umami hint of floral. So we've gone from in the dry to leaves through wet through tea liquor. We've gone from malt, umami plus malt, to vegetal to floral.
Great catch. Malt, vegetal, floral. Dry, wet, and then the actual tea liquor itself. So I like the direction you're going with this because the dry leaves always have somewhat of a different aroma than the finished product. And so going through this whole process, and by the way, I agree with everything you said. The floral isn't as obvious to me. For me, this is more light, mellow. I do catch where there is something in there that has a suggestion of floral. That's what I would say, a suggestion of floral, without question. And the umami, there's definitely the umami and the vegetal. I like that you caught that in the the wet tea leaves. All right, while you're still thinking, let me tell you another direction we're going because some of you are starting to hear this a lot. And the other thing that we got, which was very exciting this week, is we actually got samples of product that we think we're going to end up selling in Japan. And it would be herbal teas, packaged herbal teas. we're not gonna put that on the market here first. We're gonna market it first, we believe, in Japan. If it's a success in Japan, and we expect it will be, then we'll think about how to market it here.
Another participant comment, the warm leaves smelled like pizza, surprise. Wet leaves had this aroma and vegetality. So I guess it maybe the pizza aroma also, but a vegetality and a fascinating tea liquor. Still working on it.
Good. This tea liquor is hard because there's so many different things we aren't easily able to address. And it's not that we're not tasting it the same. In fact, I think most of us are tasting it the same. We're trying to use language to get our hands around this. So the Chinese say light and refreshing and smooth, but I get some of what all of you are thinking, because I actually, without prejudicing you, am also thinking of some particular flavors that I can detect. But again, I'm not going to say those because I don't want to push you in a certain direction. So great comment, and great to address how hard it is to get the language right around this. And I think the opening part of that comment was something about almost a pizza taste, and not taste, a scent. So if I were to comment on that, I don't normally think of that as a descriptor, but when I break it down, I think I know what you're talking about, because it's a scent of the dough of pizza when it's been processed, along with a very, very mild hint of cheese. I get that in what you're saying. Go ahead.
A participant asked if you could please repeat what the Chinese say about this tea.
Light, mellow, smooth. And for them, almost no astringency. So that's, and I noticed none of you have brought up astringency. I'm thinking, God, this group is good. They're really good. They're not making things up. There is very little astringency with this. And this particular varietal is all about the fact that there's very little astringency.
The participant says it's got a lovely mouthfeel. It's juicy, but not slippery, if that makes sense. And it's umami forward, but vegetal with some level of spice.
Umami forward, vegetal with some level of spice. And I love this comment if the spice is something like sage, and only a little bit of it, not a lot of it, just a touch of it. Love that comment. And the first part of that comment, can you go back?
First part of that comment was just this lovely mouthfeel that it's
that's
juicy,
right. Juicy, but not slippery. That's what I wanted to comment on. Great opening comment. Juicy, but not slippery. And the Chinese would absolutely agree with that. It's that smoothness, the juiciness, and yet there's substance in it. So some of the, and I get what you mean by not slippery. And there's because there's substance in it, and you're still trying to figure out what that flavor is. Umami, vegetality, yeah.
Another participant says the scent of the warm leaves and the feel of the tea liquor is very grounding, very comforting, and she absolutely agrees with that sage comment.
Grounding and comforting is the feeling of the tea liquor. Love this comment, because normally you don't think of green tea as grounding and calming. Normally you think of it as a little bit more stimulative, not this. And that's why making that leap and actually thinking about what you're doing and being present, you just proved to me you're absolutely present.
Another participant says this tea is improving my mood from foggy to almost cheerful.
A mood improver from foggy to almost cheerful. Love that comment because this team does, and this is an energetics comment, by the way, and I take it as such and I love it because I just mentioned that green tea tends to have stimulative. This isn't stimulative forward. However, as you drink it and you absorb it, you will start to feel some energy, some energy flow through you. All right, as you're continuing to think, I will continue a little bit more about what we're doing because I know there've been a number of questions because you're hearing this thing and that thing. Correctly, by the way, you're hearing that we're really looking at doing herbals in Japan. We still have to think about how to present those herbals. And I'm not talking about packaging. I'm really talking about the contents of the herbals because we have lots of choices in that area. We're aiming for mid-market, but we think we can get good, really good values for mid-market. But that's not all. We are looking really, really hard, and Tea Master is applying the same principles that we've applied to this collection of tea. We're looking hard to see if it might be possible for us to enter the top end of the Chinese medicinal herb market. We think that there's a good opportunity for us to do that. We will not be careless with this. And it's easy in excitement to be careless and enter that market, especially if you don't realize that just like with tea, there's gradations to the market. So if you enter with tea and are at this level, okay, you understand the highest levels. You've got that standard. You know everything that falls at other parts because you have a standard. Same with the Chinese medicines. So as it turns out, Chinese medicinal herbs are controlled once they get to a certain level. Just like the tea, in essence, is controlled once you get to a certain level. And in order to penetrate that, again, you have to build the relationships, which we've already started to do. And we actually had been thinking about this even pre-pandemic. So we'd already started to build some relationships. But now we're thinking a little bit more seriously about it because we've done more research. We seem to have in going ahead and doing this. So I'm trying to give you some shock news in terms of what our overall thinking is moving forward. We love what we're doing here. We love what we've created here. You see that we continue, not we, that I continue to have lack of self-control. So there'll always be new things showing up here. But there are other things that the Tea Master and I need to be doing. And one of those things is actually doing more events. It's actually reaching more people, because if more people knew that this existed here, we'd be sold out of things right quick, because there are a considerable number of connoisseurs of tea, but actually finding those pockets is not so easy. And trying to connect with those markets is not so easy. So that's one of the things that we're also spending some time and thinking about. And that's why you see all these permutations that we're starting to roll out here. So I don't want you to be alarmed. We are still here. We're still buying tea. And it's our intention to continue doing that. At the same time, we're trying to grow and think of some other avenues where we could also be helpful to American and Japanese consumers. All right. It looks like, if there are no more comments, that we're coming to the close of today's session. I love this session because this is such a special and unusual green tea. And I also like the history of this tea because at times it was called white tea, again, as a reminder, not because of white tea process, but because of the color of the tea leaves. And yet it's processed as a green tea. And it's really been our delight to bring this to you because it's different than the other green teas that we have here. And that's due to the cultivar itself. So next week, let's see, we had green light today. You know, I think we should follow in the green tradition and let's pump it up. Let's do a green triumph next week. So that's what we're going to go through next week. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Wonderful commentary today. Really thoughtful, being present, really paying attention to what you're tasting. And look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Have a great week now. Bye-bye.